Start whenever you're ready.
Oh, what? What was that? Is that a bottle of liquor?
My medicinal whiskey.
Jesus. Welcome, Smutters, to the Sibs Read Smut and Ned Gets Drunk podcast. I'm Helen.
I'm Ned.
Don your bug spray, tighten your wellies, and holster your bear spray. It's smut time. This is a podcast where we read, rate, review, and tell jokes, yucks, while discussing our favorite dirty romance books. If you're liking our brand of bullshit, go on and smash that like, rate, and subscribe button. Every little bit helps. If you have book suggestions or questions about us, reach out to us on the socials, TikTok and Instagram, Sibs Read Smut, or email us, sibsreadsmut@gmail.com. Make sure to tune in on Fridays for our minisodes, SRS minisode, where we discuss books and pop culture, things outside the dirty verse, inside the dirty verse, and anything else that crosses our ADHD squirrel brains. So, Smutters, still and always... Squirrel! Still and always continue to support your local libraries. Give love to those smut-peddling heroes. And Ned wrote that, and then I made me laugh because it reminds me of that Mitch Hedberg, may he rest in peace. I'm sorry, you just poured a glass of whiskey, and now you're opening a High Noon?
It's a chaser. Yeah.
That's disgusting. Anyway, Mitch Hedberg said, I love my FedEx guy because he's a drug dealer and he doesn't even know it. And he's always on time. And I loved, he was, miss him. Anyway, so on today's podcast, we are discussing two books, believe it or not. I know, can you fathom? First book is Ned's book. You're going to get a little bookie report on that. Well, I guess we both read it. It's The Simple Wild by K.A. Tucker. And then I read the third book in the series, Running Wild.
Yes.
Also
Running
by
Wild.
K.A. Tucker.
Yeah. Both in the same series. So the book one and book two are about the same characters. And then there's a novella, like 2.5. And that is also the same two main characters from books 1 and 2. And then book 3 is a woman in the same world, in same town as them, but it's a different story completely. And I don't know how I feel about that layout of having two books about the same people and then shifting to a whole nother character for the third. Like,
And neither one of us read the middle book, right? Like, I read Simple Wild a few years ago.
Yeah, me too.
And then,
then
you read it for tonight. And then, now you've not read the second book, right?
Correct. I've not read 2 or 2.5.
And then I read 3. And so there's a lot to be said about the main character of 3 is kind of the villain in the first book 1 and 2, especially book 2 from what I've been gathering. Not the villain, but she's the foil to your main female character because she's in love with the main character in yours. So, and we'll get into this, but she's like the friend who kind of gets in the way for books 1 and 2, and so then she gets her own book in book 3. Definitely a standalone. Like, you don't have to know the storyline of the first 2, but it helps. And so it was it's interesting to see her like redemption arc. It's just from her point of view. So it was I enjoyed it, especially knowing that she was hated on in the first couple.
Your book was single perspective as well, right? Because the book 1, and I don't know about book 2, but I assume book 2 is also single perspective, which we don't love. I don't, just right off the bat, I think it was done okay. I didn't usually. I'm not
single
a huge fan of
perspective.
this.
You mean?
Yeah. I'm not a huge fan of the single perspective, and in this case, I thought it was done all right. It didn't bother me as much as it normally does in some of these books. And before we get into the summaries and everything else, it's the cover watch. It's the flirty big hat covers of these women, kind of fish out of water going into the Alaskan wild, and it's fine.
It made me laugh because when I was like fresh, I guess I was my mid-20s. This was a while ago, probably like peak 2012, and I had gone to to Ireland for my friend's wedding, and I went to H&M and bought this like big black floppy hat. And this is like peak millennial wearing the like big floppy hat out and about. And it's like, that's what the covers are, is these girls like going to the middle of Alaska. And so your girl is wearing like the big floppy like influencer hat that they all had. And then my girl on Running Wild is wearing like a little beanie because she's like a tough, true Alaskan girl.
Yeah, born and raised,
Born
whatever.
and raised. So, but your cover made me giggle. And there's nothing even romantic about it. It's just the wilderness. Yours has an airplane on it and a girl.
I think yours does too.
Yeah, it's just wilderness and the girl.
Yeah.
Oh,
no, I thought there was a plane on there too. But,
maybe.
Whatevs.
Yeah.
I thought they were fine. And they kind of explain what you want in a romance cover for me is they kind of explain what the plot is, and these do. They're in the middle of nowhere. They're in the middle of Alaska. It's got a little float plane and, planes on there, they run an airline company. So, you get it. It tells you exactly what what the story, well, not exactly what the story is, but enough about the story that you can kind of glean what you're in for.
Although then I would argue, so the airplane makes a lot of sense for your story, but my cover should have a dog on it.
Yeah, not a bobsled, but dog sled team.
Dog sled.
Yeah, bobsled.
Jamaican bobsled team.
Racist.
It's the movie.
No, your accent.
That, yes. Yeah, without question. Yeah, for sure.
That highly offensive.
All right, I glazed over a bunch of stuff. Ned's gonna ruin his book for you, tip to taint, as he gives you a summary of it. And so, FYI, we will be spoiling these books for you. And go read them. Honestly, like pause and go read. I've actually really liked this story. The world.
Yeah, we can't speak for book 2 because we haven't read it, but books 1 and 3, I think you enjoyed 3, and I know you enjoyed 1 when we read it. But all right, so Simple Wild, K.A. Tucker starts off the series. Kayla Fletcher is 26 years old in Toronto, and she is one of these fashionistas around town. She has like a lifestyle blog.
She's a blogger.
And her and her friend run a site that like going to websites and doing all this cool stuff. Much like us, running a successful podcast empire. And
yes, of course.
But it's another one of these books that starts off with like the worst day of your life. So she gets fired from her job like right off the bat. She actually has a great conversation with this random dude on the subway who's a janitor, and she's like, "Really, you love your life now that you're a janitor?" And he's like, "Yeah, I did your job and I hated it, and I started a janitorial company and I love my job." And she's like, "Oh, well, thanks for the perspective." Then she gets a call that her dad has cancer. And she's like, ugh, that's not great. And she hasn't talked to him in a decade, so that's like not ideal news. And then she randomly sees her boyfriend out at the bar, obviously hitting on another woman, and she just kind of doesn't care. And she's like, and that's the one thing about this book too, was her stepfather is a psychiatrist. So he is like the voice of reason throughout a lot of her kind of spinning out about her dad being sick and not talking to her dad and her mom being overbearing. Like, he's always there to kind of like guide her in. So she has a lot, although she's 23 or 24 or, whatever, young. She has a good head on her shoulders and deals with a lot of these adult things in a very adult ways, which I liked. I thought it was good. So she gets the call from Agnes, who I loved. She's like the grandma
side
type,
character.
Side character, and in small town Alaska, saying your dad's pretty sick. You should probably come. And she doesn't tell her how bad it is or anything else, just more like come and get here. So she plans to go for a week. On the way there, the plane rides from hell, which I had to laugh because when you traveled to Italy for your study abroad took these huge suitcases, and she is flying to Alaska with these enormous suitcases where the Jonah, the male lead, looks at her suitcases, throws her a little duffel bag, and goes, "You can fill that, and that's the only stuff you can bring with you." And she's like, "Oh my God, what?" And it was pretty funny. But I just imagined you and your huge suitcases from Italy.
They lost my suitcase. That was the issue. So, I mean, it sort of a similar thing. Like the airline lost when I was going to study abroad. So I had everything. I had all my school stuff. I think I had like one extra pair of underwear, and I wore the same jeans for like 5 days. And I think I was like, chubbier than all my roommates. And I borrowed somebody's hoodie, and I wore the same. I just washed my underwear in the sink every night for like 5 days. It was really gross.
You are gross, just in general.
Says a lot about me. It's left an impression. But anyway, they did lose it eventually came, but they lost it for a while. So.
Yeah, well, and she's this fish out of water, Toronto girly, and she's wearing her 3-inch wedge heels, walking out there in the crappy Alaskan weather, and the small plane ride and everything else that Jonah kind of screws her over with. I 15% in, I called it meat bad. It's not even a meat cute. It's like they're kind of shitty to each other, like right off the bat, and it was I did not particularly like him, for a majority of this story. He was kind of a dickhead, and the sarcastic and sassiness of his character just did not come across to me as funny. It was much like what was the My Favorite Bad Decision, the Elizabeth O'Rourke, where you read it as more snarky jabs back and forth, and me, I read it as he was kind of just being a dickhead. I viewed that this way too, where he was just kind of being a dick to her, and she was sarcastic right back and gave it right back to him, which was fun, and her kind of sarcasm and everything else was fun and gave it some lightheartedness, but he was just kind of a piece of shit to her for a majority of the book, until he's finally like, "Oh, I actually like you," and and that's the problem with like the enemies to lovers sort of thing, where it's like, if that flip switch is not done, but if there's and he legitimately was like, he I don't know if he thought she was a bad daughter or not, but her not being around for the last 10 years obviously affected, her relationship with her dad. So I think he's harboring
he was like a son to Ren, the dad.
Yeah.
Like he and Ren, he and the dad were very close. So, it was he was like, "You're swooping in here like last minute, like fuck off. Like as a town, we've been supporting him through all of this, and now you're just going to like swoop in here and having, he made a lot of assumptions about her and why she was there."
Well, and the fact too that she he does not at the end when he finally is like, "Oh, I liked you the whole time," and whatever else, I was just not showing it, right, and whatever else. It's like, no, I did not get that. The writing to me did not give him that kind of sarcastic out. It was too mean to be that funny, I think, to come across as "I liked you the whole time" sort of thing. So that was the one like unbelievable part of the story for me, when that flip switches of them going from being at each other's throats to like, "Oh, I actually like you, let's suck face." It was kind of immediate, and I didn't like that. But she gets to Bangor, Maine, or not Bangor, Maine, Bangor, Alaska,
which exists. Bangor, Maine is also a place.
It's also a place,
but
and she's like
very far from where your story is actually located.
Yeah, but she, there's no chains, there's no coffee shops, none of the convenient amenities. It's very very fish out of water. Wildlife and bears are just everywhere, and she doesn't know how to approach her dad, and it's a very awkward meeting for the first time. Which,
does she stay with him?
Yeah, she's living at his house.
She like goes and stays at his house, right? That's what I remember.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they, the teasing of Jonah and whatever else continues. Like at one point, she finds her suitcases that were lost on his porch covered up, and he had taken them like the next day, and she decides to shave his beard and like not shave it off, but trim it and make him look stylish and whatever. And she's like, oh my God, he's hot under there, like, oh, you start creaming her jeans about him like immediately. And despite his rough exterior, she starts noticing, oh, he tirelessly works for the community, he's dependable and well respected, and he's quietly helps anyone in need, flying. They run Jonah and the dad Ren run a charter flight company, running in and out. So they do medical pickups. They come to find out that Ren is sicker than he let on, and he's probably 4 to 6 weeks from dying. She is helping them retrofit the business and designing a website, and she decides to stay longer. And then when she finds out how little time he has left, she's like, okay, I'm just going to stick around. And the mom, has always kind of loved Ren, but their lives just didn't work out. The book starts with Susan, the mom, leaving Ren at the airport when Kala was 2. And then, so the mom comes back and spends the last little bit with Ren and Ren
never remarries, right?
No, he never remarries. Him and Agnes were talking about potentially getting together at one point, but he was still and always in love with Susan, and said it wasn't going to be fair to her and
Susan
to Agnes.
remarried. Kala had a stepdad in
in Toronto.
Yeah.
So the stepdad is the therapist.
That's right. You mentioned that.
Who was who was constantly giving advice throughout this story, and there's some wildness stuff. They go look for hikers and who aren't at the pickup point, and they get fogged in, which is where the sex happens.
The cabin in the woods.
Which was
dirty.
But it was also like a little. Oh, they're flying in on fumes and whatever else. Jonah also crashes a plane at one point, which was a little excitement in there. So there were some fun over just their standard bickering and whatever else. And Ren dies at the end, and Kala after that returns to Toronto. Kala, whatever, returns to.
Did you listen to it?
Yeah.
How did they say her name?
Kala. But I just don't
respect that. You're like,
I just think that's a dumb way to. I think that's a dumb way to pronounce it.
It's spelled Calla. It's Kala.
Yeah, Kala, which like
Kala.
Holla.
Holla for Kala.
But she goes back to Toronto after she and Jonah had been boning for a while. And he ends up coming down to Canada to like get her, and like doesn't propose to her, but like, hey, I have a proposition for you. I'm gonna start my own flight company because Ren sold the business when he died to a bigger company that could actually afford it. And he goes, I'm starting my own thing. Do you want to come with me? And so the second book kind of is them starting their business and him flying a lot and her at home, just being a domesticated Alaskan goddess or whatever, which is more rustic than it sounds probably. But, it
well, and I think it's to the whole point of like, it parallels that story of Susan was a big city girl who married an Alaskan, bush guy.
Bush pilot, yeah.
And then, left him and moved to Toronto. And so Kala had to make sure that she wasn't going to do the same, right? Like she had to make sure she watched it happen with her parents, and so she just wanted to really make sure that like moving to Alaska was like where with the right move for her forever, and that she wasn't going to turn into her mom and run away at some point.
Yeah. And there was some great sense of wanderlust in this book. I don't know about your book. Well, we'll find out when you kind of run through it, but the travel bug, the wilderness bug, the nature, descriptions and all that kind of stuff were great. I mean, she's a pretty great author, all things considered. And a couple funny things throughout here were, that their raccoons come up a lot. There's 2 raccoons outside of her Toronto apartment.
Have you heard of Jimothy? You're not perpetually online like I am, so are you familiar with Jimothy? Jimothy the raccoon? We'll talk about it in the minisode.
Okay. But Agnes was great. I loved Agnes as a character. There is a phone call in there where she's talking to her best friend after she shaves his face about how hot Jonah is. And she's looking in the fridge like an idiot, talking just blah, 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 blah in the kitchen at the airline and at the airline hangar or whatever. And he's standing there when she gets out of the fridge and shuts the door. And that gave me like hives of sympathy, embarrassment. Like that scene was so well written. I'm sitting there going like, oh, yucko. Like, take this headphones out of my ears. I can't listen to it. It was so embarrassing and uncomfortable. And then they're flying in a plane to look for these hikers or whatever. And she's like going, oh my God. And she's just like, oh, that's a bear. Oh, that's a moose. And she's pointing stuff out. And I remember the camp that I went to in Canada where we canoed a bunch of places and whatever else. We'd see these enormous mooses. I mean, they're like the size of a car.
It's mooses.
And it is not. and this one kid was like, oh, I know how to make a moose call, whatever. And he would just go, moose.
That's so dumb.
He would say moose really loud with a, moose. He'd scream it at the top of his lungs. Moose. It made me laugh so hard when she's like, that's a moose.
That's what a moose. What does a moose say? Moose.
Moose. That's going to be very cute.
Yes.
So that was, that was fun. Just running through my ha-has on here. There's a coffee and bait shop, which I thought was hysterical. And she's like, I think I'll skip it. I'm still going to go get my oat milk or whatever at the grocery store. And everything's expensive as hell. It was interesting seeing versions of a community that is so foreign to us, where everything's so super expensive because everything needs to get flown in, and everything is, all your basic staples are like, you can run out of water in your house because it has to get trucked up there every week. All these little things were, interesting, and the local indigenous community and everything else was interesting to how people live and work separately because they work in the city, but their family wants to live the traditional lifestyle up the river or whatever. So there's a lot of history and kind of
very Alaska porn. Like it's a great descriptor. Like Alaska as a scene. Alaska is a character in this book.
Yeah,
very much like the setting and the people. And you've never been to Alaska. I've never been to Alaska.
I have not. No.
So yeah, I definitely really liked that part of it. It was like, and I think we talked, like you already mentioned the Mount Kilimanjaro book, whatever that was called. Like, I love it when like smut novels, which, and I don't even know if I'd classify this as smut, but I love it when these novels have like really just scenic, beautiful settings, because it is like a character in the book. So I really like that.
Yeah, and it truly is. It paints a very vivid picture, and she does that very well. And it's there's a lot of them getting pissed at each other back and forth, but he is trying to make her fall in love with Alaska a little bit, and you kind of figure that out towards the end when he's like, oh, I've liked you the whole time. I just liked you too much, so I was a real dick to you. Like that stupid angle of it. Mm-hmm. But it's one of those things where it was done okay. It wasn't great. But all that being said, she does go back to him in the end. Move back there, and like 2 months later, I think they end up getting. I don't know if he proposes to her, but he's like, it's coming or something at the very end of this book. And the second one is them getting the business and then getting married eventually. Yes. I think.
Yeah. And that's the mom, Susan, and again, we've not read this book, so we're spoiling it based on things I read online. But the second book is the wedding, and like Susan, the mom, and the stepdad fly up there, and there's just, all this like, they want the wedding to look this way and like more traditional, and they just want to have like a little, traditional small little thing. And so there's a lot of like back and forth about that. And Calla and Jonah.
Well, and so by all accounts, this book was tame. Very tame. Mm-hmm. And I don't know about yours, but I assume it's probably in the same vein. Yeah. And I named random stuff in here because there wasn't that much to name. So it was 15% was meat bad, 71% was the first kiss, where he just kisses her like randomly out of nowhere. And I'm kind of like, you stole my shit. Now kiss me. And it was, he admits that he was wrong about not liking her at the beginning. And she's just kind of super wet for him. And, it was kind of a hot kiss, but still, it's, kissing. 78% lock you in my remote cabin. This is where he's like strip and they're wet from their hike in the woods, and he's just like tells her to take her clothes off and get in bed, but like hotly. And there's a lot of gasping.
And for the record, that like the bed is like a wooden bunk that is just like, it's like a.
I think they slept on the floor. But
like
they even slept on the
in the middle of the woods. Like they're gonna get splinters in their butts. Ugh.
Well, it's a rescue. It's a rescue cabin. Well, they have a sleeping bag. They have supplies.
Oh, okay.
But and it was pretty open. It was open door. I mean, there's fingering and nervousness and mouth sexing and all kinds of stuff.
Gross. Ew.
80% just round two, and that's behind closed doors. They only had the really one open door scene. And 81% ode to Morningwood. He's chopping wood, and then she's just like, come back in here, big boy, and blast me. And he does. And then they pretty much get back, and they find out that Ren's dying, and the rest of the story is just them, they're just kind of boning on the sly at night, and she pretty much moves in with him for the rest of her time in Alaska. And I mean, and that's it. Like one open door, relatively short scene. And some of the things I read online were, talked about slow burn, which I don't even know if it's slow burn, much slow burn as it is just tame. It's just not that kind of book. But that being said, we made a decision this week that you should read the book 3, which we have not read before, and that you were going to kind of do your own review of that one as well, so we can cover more ground. Which
you ready for my
I
book
kind of like that format. I am. Give it.
All right. Who was our English teacher at Carlo? Do you remember? Was it Mrs. Lockney? I don't remember. But whoever it was, she might have been. She's the one with the show pig named Ned. Like 300-pound potbelly pig. Anyway, I read Running Wild by K.A. Tucker. Everyone knows that already. So this wasn't interesting. I already said this earlier, but so Marie is a side character in the book 1 and 2. So she is like Jonah's best friend out in the woods in their town, and so she she's harbored a crush on Jonah for years. So she at one point was actually engaged to another man, a little bit of her backstory, and broke up with him because she thought that she and Jonah were going to become something. In comes Calla, and that ends. So as we meet Marie, she's a veterinarian. She was kind of a muckety muck in her program. Like she did really well. She's an animal surgeon, spent a long time, one of the best veterinarians in her class and all this stuff. And so people were surprised when she went back to this small town in Alaska to take over her dad's veterinary business, because she could have, gotten a job anywhere and been really well paid. I really liked Marie as it had been a while. I don't remember her as the foil in a simple, whatever you read, the simple.
Well,
Wild.
she's in it so little. I mean, she's in one scene.
Okay.
She comes in.
I think she's in the second one more because she is Jonah's
Yeah.
best man in their wedding eventually when they get married in book 2. So I read that on the internet. So Marie and Jonah do have a good friendship, and so she is also then in her mid to late 30s. Like she's maybe 30.
Her childbearing years are coming to a close.
Thank you. So but that's what I like about her is that she's like a real full bona fide adult. Like she has financial issues. She has student debt from her veterinary program.
And a geriatric womb.
A geriatric womb. Her, which isn't true. The uterus never ages. Only your eggs do. Anyway, come at me. So she just has like real life problems. Like she's taking over her dad's veterinary business. There's, she works a lot with dogs, obviously. So like part of the whole point of this is the running wild. So she ends up meeting the male main character because a dog gets brought into the clinic and he's obviously been abused. And so she hates this, obviously. She gets one of her friends and they, do a little digging and they figure out that it likely belongs to this new fresh guy in town, Tyler. So she and her friend go up to Tyler's ranch and dog place and they cut the links at his the front gate and they go on and trespass. And she basically shows up there and then just accuses him of animal abuse. And he's like, go fuck yourself. Like I did not. And of course he's a strong guy, doesn't give a lot of information about it. He's just like, no, I did not do that. And you can get off my property now. So it's, again, a
Get
very
off my
meat
lawn.
bad. I mean, kind of like a very meat bad. I like that you called it that. That's pretty much what it was. She's there accusing it. They both love, and you don't know this about Tyler yet, but they're both huge animal people. And so for her to come onto his property and accuse him of animal abuse, she's dead to him. So he's pissed right off the bat. They end up leaving, and she quickly finds out that it was he was being set up by this other guy who they were both dog racers for the Iditarod. And so this other guy in town was trying to get Tyler disqualified by obviously saying that he was an animal abuser. And so that comes to light pretty quickly. And then Marie feels like an asshole because she didn't, know the full story at the time. So she was working with the information that she had.
Rushed to judgment.
She rushed to judgment. So then she felt bad. And so she didn't actually apologize. Yes, so she took her pants off. But so then she's on the Iditarod, and so there's veterinarians who volunteer all along the course, which is thousands of miles. It was interesting to learn about. Again, Alaska very much being a character in this book. The Iditarod, learning about dog mushing and all of these things.
Well, did you know anything about the Iditarod before this? Because it's super fascinating.
I did my high school. But the big capstone project in high school, I did it on Jack London, Call of the Wild, and I wrote a 30-page paper on it, and I loved Jack London's books. And so I, what is it? There was Call of the Wild, and there was White Fang maybe. And so yeah, but again, high school was not yesterday, so it's been a while. So it was an interesting to flip back. I don't know a ton about the Iditarod, but I learned, so I really liked learning about that. There is a single tent thing. So of course, Tyler's racing the Iditarod and Marie is volunteering her, she works at these checkpoints and people come through and she looks at the animals, make sure everybody's good and then clears them. And she didn't clear a guy the year before. And so everybody knows her as this really tough vet who if your dogs aren't in great shape, she'll fail you. And then he lost and it was a big deal the year before. So, Tyler comes up and he's like, please don't fuck with my dogs. And they end up having a one tent night. His tent something happens, and
he,
of course, has to come into her tent. Nothing happens except for a kiss. And so there's like, he's like sound asleep next to her, and he like rolls over and gives her like a kiss, a little smooch in this tent. And it's like kind of confusing. And you slowly start to find out that Tyler had moved to this part of the world, moved to Alaska like 2 years before from Finland, where his wife and unborn son died both during childbirth. So the wife went in to have a baby, and they both died. So that was kind of fucked up.
So he has a reason to kind of be a dick sometimes.
So he's got like, he's a lot of mourning and grieving going on.
Major baggage.
Major baggage. And so so she learns this about him, and that, then of course like makes her have a soft spot for him. He's got a lot going on, a lot in dealing with.
Yeah, it's called her vagina.
What?
Major soft spot for him.
Major soft spot. Yep.
Her vagina.
Wet iditarod. Gross. And so
you said it.
You said it. I was like, you just made my joke into something dirty, and I don't even remember what I said.
A soft spot.
Marie and Tyler have a soft kiss in the tent. That's it. And then literally that's at like 20% or 25%, and then nothing happens.
Oh,
early, but it's just this little peck in the tent, and then nothing happens. So it's all about so it's enemies to friends to lovers, and is the trope of this book. So she's accusing him of abusing his animals, enemies, and then they become friends through the Iditarod, and Tyler ends up winning the whole race, which is great.
Woo.
And then they go back to town, and they agree to be friends. I think they like realized there was chemistry in all of out on the road when the mushing, and he straight up tells her at the end of this, I just want to be friends. I'm coming out of
I got baggage, honey.
I got baggage. You and I are just gonna be friends. And Marie, hearing that, is immediately triggered because of her history with Jonah. She's like, you know what? I have enough friends. I don't need another guy that I like and he doesn't like me back. Like she's burned by that. So then in comes, I liked Marie's story because it was so full. It was so like, she has this like significant history. She's in her mid to late 30s. Her parents are aging. And so part of her whole story is she has all this, vet school debt. She's taking over her dad's vet business, but it doesn't make a lot of money. And so comes up at one point that he wants to sell, which is actually reminding me of another book where they were selling a vet clinic or something. But anyway, so then she and her dad are very close, but then she's these two sisters, and they both have kids, and they're married, and she wants that. She wants that life for herself. She wants a partner. She wants kids. To your very sensitive Ned saying this barren
geriatric womb. Geriatric womb. Not barren.
Barren like your grandmother. So
all-time classic Ned line.
That is an all-time classic Nedism. And so there's just so much like backstory to her world and her life. So there's a lot of competition between the sisters. There's a lot of, back and forth. There's financial issues. She has one family that they've worked with for 40 years. And this family, the dad dies, and that the Hatchet family, and then this young inept son takes over and ends up kind of firing Marie and her clinic because he wants to pay less, and then it's a whole so you learn a lot about this community and the different relationships in it. There's a lot of drama with the sisters, who are really there to show how much Marie wants a partner and kids, and they don't, and they just make that kind of dramatic for her. And so then really the rest of it is just her and Tyler having these like chance meetings where she's in a parking lot, and her fiance, Jonathan, the original fiance from like
her
5-10 years ago. Yeah, her ex-fiance shows up with his new wife or with his wife and new kid, and then Jonah pulls into the parking lot, and so her like unrequited crush shows up, and she's like, "Oh my god, of all the fucking people in the world, these two are in the parking lot at the same time." And then Tyler pulls in, and she's like, "Jesus Christ!" And so it's like it's very funny. It was a great scene in my opinion. And so then again, they don't fuck until 65%, finally. So they're at a bar in whatever town they're in. I think they're in Bangor, or Trappers Crossing, I think, is a small town where her vet clinic is actually located, but they were in a bigger town out at a bar. And so Tyler shows up. She had asked him to like come for this some night at this bar. He does show up, and then Jonah and Calla show up, and they like accidentally everyone finds out that they're pregnant. And so both of Marie's sisters are pregnant, and then she finds out that Calla is pregnant. Again, this is all Marie wants in her life. And so she is like, I've fucking been there, you know, like you have to be happy for your friends when they get pregnant, but when it's what you want and it's not happening, there's just this like unique, I think I just loved her for this feeling of like, it fucking sucks. You have to be happy for your friend, and you are, but you're also just so devastated for yourself. And so she ends up leaving the bar before she breaks down, because she wants just Jonah and Calla to have their moment. She doesn't want to make it about her. And so she runs out to her truck, and she starts breaking down in her truck. Guess who comes to the truck? Tyler. And so he slides in, and he's like, I see that you're upset. She just lays it all on him. Like at this point, they'd had a few friendly conversations, and they agreed to sort of be friends, but she also was like, I don't want to be friends with you. Like, you know, and so she's like, listen, all my friends are married. They have kids. That's what I want. I'm not finding that person. I'm trying to accept now that like maybe that's never in my future. And she knows his history too. And he kind of brings that up, and they have this conversation. And then so Jonah comes out of the bar. And the whole reason this first sex scene happens, which I dubbed a la Ned, parking lot pussy. Not my best, but I tried.
The shag and wagon.
The shag and wagon. Damn it. That was better. So Jonah comes out looking for Calla to like talk to her, because he saw LA mating call. He saw her leave. And so Tyler's there, and he's like, Jonah's coming to look for you. And, you know, she's like covered in tears, and she's like, I don't want him to see me like this. So he's like, okay, let's make out. That's like his solution, is like, Jonah won't approach the car if we're making out. So then they start making out. And then she's like, no, he's still going to approach the car. Like he doesn't care.
Great cover.
Yeah, that it's like awkward. He'll still come up if we're kissing. So then he like picks her up and puts her on his lap, and is like, well, what about this? And then they end up having like a full bore sex scene. And so
was it the same way where it was like one open door sex scene, and then like the rest of them were super quick or closed door?
Thank you for asking. So no, so there were two. So parking lot pussy was number one. So then they start to sort of have this friendship, and they fuck, you know, and so then like they're starting to work towards it, but then they'll go like 3 weeks without seeing each other or talking to each other. And then randomly he always
She's a busy gal.
She's a busy gal. She's traipsing all over Alaska, helping dogs and different animals. She does surgery on a snake at one point. She has to like remove the eye. She has to amputate like a Bernese mountain dog's leg after he got caught in a trap. Like it was great. Like this was a great book. There was so much like to it. And then again, she wants kids. And so he shows up at her house, and she knows her cycle really well. She like tracks her cycle because she's not on birth control. So she knew when they fucked in the truck that it wasn't a big deal, that like timing wise, she wasn't going to get pregnant, which is still risky, but she got her period, and she was like, and they had a conversation about like, he's like, I'm clean, and he hadn't even kissed anybody since his wife. So she was like, I'm pretty sure he's clean if he like hasn't kissed anyone since his wife. And then she was like, I'm clean too. She probably does her own STD tests at the vet office. I don't know. So they are fucking again, and it's very open door, and they're like having sex, and he basically is inside of her, and he's like, wait, are you on birth control? And she's like, you know what? I'm not, but I track my cycle. And he's like, and she's like, it's not.
I use the RISM method. Yeah.
He's like, what if I pull out? She's like, you know, like that's not going to work. Yada, yada. And then they like lock eyes, and she's like, this is what, you know, like if I get pregnant, like this is what I've wanted. Like I wouldn't be mad about it. I did name this the skirt squirt. because he does end up coming inside of her. But they have this like lock-eyed moment where it's like, if it happens, we both want, like there's a clear history of him always wanting a child, and he was pretty clear
wanting
about
a family,
wanting a family, and she obviously does too. They've been pretty honest with each other about that. He just has all these hang-ups with his widow,
his dead wife,
dead wife and dead son, and so they they like lock eyes and have this, and so it's kind of like a nice moment. It was definitely an open door scene. He squirts in her, that it's like, okay, sweet. And then he freaks out, which is really sad, and he like it's like, I'm so sorry, I can't do it, I have to go. And she is devastated. She's like, you know what, like one of the things about him is like he keeps saying the right thing but then sort of doing the wrong thing, like, or maybe it's flipped.
Kind of the exact opposite of Jonah, who always said the wrong thing but did the right thing.
Yeah. And I don't know. I mean, I don't know. He kept telling her that he just wanted to be friends, but then like there's obviously more to it than that. So anyway, he freaked out.
I thought she was telling him she didn't want to be friends because she didn't want to.
No, she told him straight up, like, I don't want to be your friend. I either want this to be more.
I want to bone you. Yeah.
Or I don't want it. I don't want to be hurt again. She was straight. I mean, she was honest with him. So I appreciated it. It felt very adult of them to be like, he's like, I've got baggage, you've got stuff, like, let's not. Anyway,
but both these books seem to have that angle of the when she was breaking up with when Kala was breaking up with her boyfriend in the first book, she was like, listen, we grew apart, I saw him with another woman, kind of hurt my ego more than anything else, but like, I'm not mad about it. I knew we were on an end track. Like, I knew that this wasn't going to last. If he didn't do something this idiotic and stupid, I probably would have broke up with him soon anyway. And it was one of those things where she was very adult about it, even though she was, relatively young. I mean, mid-20s, whatever. But it sounds like both these books have characters who are mature beyond their
more mature. Yeah. Which is actually people say that about all of K.A. Tucker's books, is it relies less on like people like bitches being dramatic and more so on the like external stressors to bring the drama, as opposed to like the miscommunication tropes or like one conversation could have fixed everything or so I prefer that. I mean, it feels more realistic and adult like.
But he squirts in her and then fixes it, I assume.
He squirts in her. It takes some time to fix. It's not like an immediate fix. She ends up getting
pregnant.
No, she ends up getting her period, and so she like runs into him a couple weeks later. So on his little ranch where all the dogs are, his widow's younger brother, is like a very awkward 16-year-old kid, and teenager, and so he comes and stays with Tyler and helps with the dogs, and he's grieving the loss of his sister and all of this, and so he is like a nice little nerdy character, and he calls Marie freaking out because one of the dogs is giving birth and it's not going well, and so Marie jets out there to help this teenager, and she would do anything for the dogs, really, you kind of find out. And so she shows up and she's talking to the little brother basically, and she's like, how is Tyler? And he's like, he's good. He like obviously knows what's going on and feels awkward about it. So then she's leaving and she runs into Tyler. He's like pulling into the driveway and she's just like, I'm not pregnant. Like zooms off and it like hits the gas. It's like he like at one point he like wanted to talk and was trying to engage with her, and then finally she was like, no, and I'm not pregnant, and like just jets, and so it was great. And so and then it's like time after that where he finally comes around to her and is like, listen, I've done a lot of soul searching, I'm this is what it is, I'm ready.
Let me put a baby in you.
Kind of, but not really. I just like you are it for me. You remind me of like a time when I was really happy, and I deserve that again, and my wife would want that for me. He said for one point he was like, I don't know how to love two women at the same time, And she
and that was kind of Ren's problem too with Agnes and Susan. Like, you know, it seems like he made the wrong decision and shut Agnes down forever. And, you know, until he died. And it sounds like this Tyler made the right decision and was like, yeah, I guess I can find enough love in my heart for you two broads.
Yeah.
You know.
So they end up together, believe it or not. So.
Yeah. And would you say that this was in the vein of Grumpy Sunshine? You know, like, because the first one definitely was to a certain degree.
I wouldn't say Grumpy Sunshine. I don't feel like Marie is not a sunshine, which I just really liked her. She just felt like a fucking honest, dead ass woman. Like I really liked her. She was a hard worker. She gave a shit about a lot of things. And some of the things just weren't swinging her way when it came to finding a partner. I mean, she lives in the Alaskan bush. She travels all the time. She went to 9 years of vet school. Like,
Did she have a bush?
Full bush.
Alaskan bush.
The Alaskan bush.
Well, your Alaskan
description
bush
says that Jonah is a bush pilot, and I was like, oh, is he?
Good one, Helen.
Right into that bush.
Oh yeah. Deep in that bush. Would you where would you put the second book on the Spice-O-Meter? I mean, we talked about the first one being tame, I think, across the board. Even with the open door sex scene, I'd still put it in the tame category.
Yeah, I'd put it in the tame category. In book 3, when you say the second book of our podcast, this is
correct.
Book 3 of the
second
series.
book we're talking about today.
Yeah, absolutely tame. Slow burn, I would absolutely say. There's the little peck in the tent, which he thought he was kissing his dead wife. Sad.
Whoopsie.
Whoopsies. So yeah, no, slow burn and tame. But
what did you think of the audiobook narrator who I think she read all 3 books?
They were different. Mine was a different girl. I think mine was Callie Dalton, and yours was somebody else.
Rebecca. It was Rebecca Ross.
Yeah. Which I think makes sense because yours is from Callie's perspective and mine's from Marie's.
Yeah.
I liked her. She did a good man voice.
Yeah. Good. Was there anything from his side of it? You know, was there like a chapter at the end or anything that kind of had his point of view?
No, not fully. I mean, he explained himself a couple times, and there was she used a few techniques of because he won the Iditarod, then there was a bunch of interviews that happened with him. So you learn a lot about him and his past through those sort of story tools of the interviews and things like that.
Exposition through other sources.
Yeah. So, and his in-laws were there, and so he got into mushing and dog mushing through his ex-wife, or through his dead wife. I'm sorry, not ex.
So what was he Finnish then?
No, he's from Montana. Met his original wife, moved to Finland to be with her family, and got really into the mushing lifestyle. And then after she died, moved to
the mushing lifestyle. Sounds like a sex cult.
But a gross one. I would not want to be a part of it. Mushing,
real mushing.
Sounds squishy. Does not.
Yes,
sound
very squishy.
Sexy.
Squish. Would you recommend this book?
Absolutely. I really like these books. Also very highly rated on Goodreads, all of them. She's a great writer. I really like her writing, and again, is this a smut novel? No, it was a great, really good, not
romance.
Even a rom-com. Yeah, it was a romance. It was I enjoyed it. Yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
I enjoyed mine
series.
too. We as said, we have not read book 2, but if it's anything like book 1 and book 3, it would probably be a recommend as well.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, I enjoyed it. I would recommend it as well. And you know, there's a little bit of funny in there, more poignancy. Mm-hmm. You know, some just small town life type stuff, but generally. She weaves a good yarn for sure. Do you know what we are reading next week?
Nope.
Not even a clue. Didn't even look at it.
Did not. You said, is this the one that I have to read?
No, that's the last one.
Okay.
So folks, we only have 2 episodes left in this season 2 of the podcast. We are flying through these eps. We next week is False God by C.W. Farnsworth.
This is a first for me. I've not read it, and I'm really excited.
And in the sheer level of brilliant planning on our part, both of the last 2 books are like billionaire storylines. So we did a lot of hockey at the top end of the season, and the back end of the season is going to be all rich people shit. So the last 2 books is False God is next week, and then the week after is A Deal with the Bossy Devil. And that's the one that we have to read.
Megan Quinn? Which one is?
That's Kyra Parsi.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's another one that we've listed as.
Me.
Yeah, two new ones that we haven't read yet. So next week, False God, C.W. Farnsworth. Check it out. We will give you all the deets and details next week. Deets and details are technically the same thing. So. Make sure to tune in Fridays for the minisodes, where we talk about things not in the dirty verse, whether it be books or pop culture. And if you're liking our bullshit and us generally laughing at our own jokes, go ahead and hit that like, rate, subscribe button. Generally, golden showers with praise, please, and thank you. Thanks for listening, and tune in next week. Smutters.
Stay smutty.
Stay smutty.
Ciao.
Ciao, ciao.
Ciao, ciao.
Out.